Joining us now, State Senator Joe Morrissey. Fighting Joe. Joe, what a night for Joe Biden.
John, great. It was not only a great night, but for Joe Biden in this quest for the presidency, but it was the greatest night in his life for three separate quests to secure the White House. He's 77 years old. This is his third bid for the White House. He had never before captured a state, a single state, and in the space of 72 hours, he wins 9 states last night plus South Carolina on Saturday. The greatest 3 days of his life in his lifelong quest for the presidency.
I don't see how you stop him now, Joe.
Well, I think it's actually, I heard your recitation of the states. It's actually more. Consider the following. He won 9 states last night. The biggest one was Texas, but he won Virginia, North Carolina. He wins Minnesota. He wins Massachusetts, which is Elizabeth Warren's state. Alabama and Arkansas, no surprises there. But here's the key. Consider the following. Yes, Bernie won California, Utah, Vermont, and Colorado. But remember, it was close, pretty close in California, 33% to 24%. But the majority of, many of those Californians voted early.
Right.
Why is that important? Because Joe Biden's had, after South Carolina, that's where, in the last 2 days, 3 days, that's where his rise in the polls began, okay? You had 3 major candidates, former candidates, Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, Beto O'Rourke, and Bill Steyer all come out and endorse him. Just think, because many people decided this race literally in the last, not day, but last hour.
Right.
They were deciding the last day and last hour. Had those Californians who voted early and probably voted more for Bernie waited, he may have even won California. So here's my analysis. It's down to 2 septuagenarians, 178, 177. It's going down to the convention. Nobody will have 1,900, the required number of votes by the time they get there. So it's a convention, but I believe Biden goes in there with the greatest number of delegates. Also, remember what's coming up. March 10th, Michigan, and Biden is going to do well there, and he's going to do very well in Mississippi. He's going to win Mississippi.
We're with Joe Morris. He's going to win Mississippi. Wouldn't you agree with me, though, that as important as South Carolina was for Joe Biden, he had to win that state? Do you agree with my assessment that Bernie Sanders has got to win Michigan here, or he's a dead duck? He's got to win that state.
Absolutely. And then 3 days later, you got Ohio, Illinois, and Florida. If Bernie Sanders doesn't have a resurgence in Michigan, absolutely done. Biden is winning the delegate race now, and if people want to, this has been a long campaign so far.
Right.
If I had to identify one turning point in the race, one day, one moment, it would be when Jim Clyburn endorsed vocally and enthusiastically Joe Biden in South Carolina. He then just Biden destroyed Bernie in South Carolina, and that was when the avalanche started.
Right.
But that was the singular moment.
I think that's pretty astute because, we don't really look anymore at endorsements meaning a lot, but they certainly do on the Democratic. They don't mean crap on the Republican side, I can tell you that. But they still matter on the D side because and then you looked at the lava explosion of endorsements for Biden on Sunday, Monday, and Sunday and Monday. Joe, I must have gotten 175 to 200 Biden for president emails in 48 hours with scores of people across the country backing Joe Biden. Oh, and then, by the way, in an absolute profile of unbelievable courage, Abigail Spanberger endorses Biden after he wins the Virginia primary. Did that take some courage or what? I mean, boy, she really
went out on the limb there, didn't she?
My goodness.
Politics is the people that get the most traction in politics are those that stake out a position early. It may not be popular, but they bring people along to their way of thinking. And then you've got the usual sheep and politicians, and that's most folks. They just go along. They put that finger up in the air, that wet their fingertip, and which way the political winds are going, and that's why my wife hates politicians. But it's true. But with regard to endorsements, let's be clear. Who would have thought with that Biden would come close in Texas? But listen, Beto O'Rourke is lost his fervor across the nation, but he still had some pull in Texas, and Biden wins Texas.
That to me was a game changer right there. I mean, a week ago, the last poll that came out in Texas, Bernie Sanders had a 24-point lead, and Biden was struggling to get to 15%. Bernie was in the high 30s. And so he had a 22-point lead that evaporated. He lost. And the other thing here that happened to Bernie yesterday, Joe, is this multi-generational coalition that he's been touting didn't materialize. That's really bad news for Sanders. It's bad news for him winning going forward. It's bad news for his argument that he can beat Trump. Young people didn't turn out for him on Tuesday in the Democratic primary the way they did in Nevada and the way they did in New Hampshire. They just didn't turn out. Only 8% of the voters, 8% on Super Tuesday, were under 25 years old. Only 15% were under 30. It's all the old people voted.
Yep. That was the mainstay of his campaign, those young people. And listen, I love it when I see young people engaged in politics. I love seeing them coming down to the General Assembly. But let's be clear. You have to do something in life, okay? That's one of my criticisms of a lot of these, younger folks that have come into the House of Delegates, particularly on the Democratic side. Let me tell you something. In life, man, you got to do something first. Build a business, okay? Lead a group of people into something, but you just can't come in there and start screaming on the corner that you want to, create a revolution. No,
right,
you
Joe.
got to do something.
Right. No, I mean, that's exactly. A lot of these people in there have done nothing. You got to run a business. You got to sign the front of a paycheck, not the back. Speaking of signing the front of paychecks, okay, so you're Michael Bloomberg. You've built huge, successful businesses. You've built the stock market machines. You built Bloomberg Media. You're worth billions of dollars. You spent $500 million so far. You got 20 delegates. That's not a very good ROI, Joe.
You're correct. Listen, he rolled the dice along with $500 million, and he lost the bet. Now, you want the night where he lost it? Just like I gave you that singular moment where Jim Clyburn in South Carolina endorsed Biden.
Right.
Here's where he lost it. He spent $500 million. The ads were well placed. He was leading in several of these Super Tuesday states. He had that strategy. He had that vision. Skip the early states with Iowa and New Hampshire. All right, and then he had a colossal failure in the Nevada debate. That he was where in Super Tuesday states where he was leading, he plummeted because of that disastrous debate in Nevada. He came out, and let me tell you something. They went after him like piranha. And you know what he should have done? He should have gotten on his toes, put his weight on his right leg and punched them in the face. He didn't do it.
He didn't do it.
He didn't do it.
He didn't do it.
They went after him, hitting him with sticks. He should have took out, and he could have done it.
Yeah.
He could have pivoted on a dime and said, "Look, you folks," and pointed at Biden, pointed at Bernie, pointed and said, "You've never held a job. Okay, you've been on the public dole for 30 and 40 years. After 3 months, you haven't even coalesced around one candidate. Here's what I did for the state of New York. Here's what I've done." Boom. He didn't do that.
Right.
He stood there and he allowed them to punch him in the face and didn't respond. That was his Waterloo. And after that, if you looked at the polls in the Super Tuesday states where he had been winning, he plummeted. So, he's done. He's going to reassess it, and he's going to get out.
He's saying that he's reassessing his campaign today. I think he gets out. I don't really understand what the argument is for Lady Macbeth to stay in this race, Warren. I mean, she finishes third in her home state. At some point, you just got to stop wasting our time and get out. What is the rationale for her staying in?
She doesn't stay in. Perhaps the only rationale would be, well, let's see. I limp in to the convention with maybe a handful of delegates that I can broker and give either to Bernie or to Biden with the promise that they put me on the ticket. Nah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's
Elizabeth is done. She loses her own state, Massachusetts, yesterday. She loses it to Biden.
She finishes third. She finishes third in her home state. Now the campaign becomes Harold Stassen-esque. Now it's ridiculous. You can't be the nominee. You can't win your home state. It's just time to get the hell out. Let me ask you something, Joe. I want to switch gears. We're with State Senator Joe Morrissey, fighting Joe. I got a couple more issues. The coronavirus, up to 9 deaths now in Washington State. What is Virginia doing? Do you think Trump is doing enough? If you were advising the administration, what would your advice be?
My advice would be you come out there with the press conference, you use the bully pulpit of the presidency, and you say, this is what we will get done. We will have 5 million test kits here within X number of days. We are putting all of our resources into isolating this virus in those areas where it's peaked, like the state of Washington. I'm telling you, people are if they look at him and see that he is leading, and I'll give you an example. With what I mean. Then it will really benefit the president. Here's the example. In 9/11, when those jets crashed into New York, the Pentagon, Pennsylvania, and the president, Bush, was down giving a talk at a school. He got on the plane, and they flew around the country, started heading west, and then circled back. They finally landed. That night, he gave a speech. It was scripted, and I remember being in Ireland, and people were watching it, and I heard again and again, I don't see the leadership. Then, the next day or 2 days later, he went to the Epic Center in New York, stood there on the rubble, no script, no notes, and he looked people in the eye and he said, "This is what we're going to do." Boom. That was it. Mm. Do you remember that day, John?
Yes, I do.
He stood on the rubble with no script. That's why I tell people, when you're giving a talk, do not read. Do not read. Put down your bullet points. He looked at them and he said, "This is what we're going to do." It was convincing. It was incisive. It was the moment that people said, he's in charge. That's what Trump has got to do. No script. Look at them. Go to the Epic Center, okay? Hell, I'd be on the plane to the state of Washington. Okay, and I'd look people in the eye and I would give them facts, not hyperbole.
Yeah.
Give them facts. This is what we're doing. Boom, 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 boom. This is our goal. Boom, 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 boom. We will fight this. We will win. I will put every resource of the United States government to stopping this right here in this country.
Well, so far he's not done that, and part of the reason is this nonsensical infatuation with what Wall Street does. And so, there's part of the Trump administration doesn't want to spook Wall Street. I mean, who gives a rat's ass, right? I mean, that stocks go up and down, Joe. They went down. Everybody, for 2 days, they went down, 2,000 or 2,500, and everybody's hair's on fire running around New York, and we're going to have a crash, and everybody's going to die. And then Monday, it goes up by 1,300. Stocks go up or down. People see a value, they buy. They don't see a value, they sell. I mean, come on. You can't govern based on Wall Street stock picks. And so that's part of, I think, what the Trump administration has been caught in, this infatuation with what the Dow number is. I don't really care. I mean, what he should do is exactly what you said. Here's what we're going to do. He should be on it every single day. And, maybe they quarantine Washington. So far, he said today he's not going to restrict travel in the U.S. But you have to take these things now very seriously.
Exactly.
And,
you're right. You're spot on, John. There seems to be more concern of protecting Wall Street. Let me tell you how Wall Street's going to be protected. If the country looks out there and they see a decisive president making decisions, then they will rally around him. Don't address Wall Street or the stock market. It is irrelevant to
totally.
the virus.
Totally. It's totally irrelevant.
What it's going to do with the virus. It's that simple. If we don't see that soon, I mean, then Trump could be in trouble. But if he makes that pivot and people look at him and say, here's what they got to say. If they look at him and say, I don't like Trump, I hate Trump, I hate his politics, but he was a leader in the virus. Okay, that's it. It could be the decisive factor in winning the re-election in November.
Joe, you're spot on. I agree with you 100%. We're out of time for this segment. And I want to thank Joe Morrissey, Senator Fighting Joe, for being with us.